Tucker Whitman.
Here.
Andy Dennison.
Present.
Ben Vitale.
Present.
Grant Kyle.
Here.
Paul Pinkney's excused. Aileen McNabb Coleman.
Present.
Joe DeForest.
Present.
Terry Baxter.
Aye.
Joseph Bennett.
Here.
Frank Reginelli.
Here.
Patrick Mahonick.
Here.
Timothy Lattimore.
Here.
Michael Didio is excused. Ryan Foley.
Present.
Keith Fatman.
Present. If we could rise for the pledges of allegiance, and if we could remember our sheriff and our fellow legislator, Mr. Didio. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So, I've been asked to remind people to speak into the microphone, so I pulled mine forward. I'm going to make a real attempt. So if everyone can. Apparently, we're being scored on this, so I guess there's going to be a little note sent to everyone based upon how well you could be heard. So just so you know. I don't know if those notes are going to be public or not, but I know I'm speaking directly into mine just in case.
Thus, our sincere condolences to the families and friends of Jim Lozinski, husband of Marcia Lozinski, from the coroner's office, Rita Justino, mother-in-law of Lloyd Hoskins, a STOP DWI and Youth Bureau Director.
Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing on the local law to establish a sustainable energy program, loan program in Cayuga County. So you'll have an opportunity throughout the meeting for the next about hour to speak on the law. But if there's anyone at this point who would like to say anything about that law, I'd like to recognize them. Does anyone wish to speak? Okay, Tracy, come forward. And if you could state your name, your address, and hold your comments to 3 to 5 minutes. Great. And also, I would remind you to speak into the microphone if you would. Thanks.
Is this acceptable?
I think so.
Okay. Hi, I'm Tracy Barrier. I live at 16 Havens Avenue in Owasco. I'm actually here as the Executive Director of the Cayuga Economic Development Agency. The PACE financing that's being considered by the county is a good tool for the Economic Development Toolbox. It's a program that allows alternative financing for businesses and nonprofits and other types of organizations that don't necessarily have access to traditional financing. So it would open up an opportunity for these organizations to make some improvements to their properties that would help to improve their efficiencies and the bottom line in their businesses and their organizations. So we just wanted to I just wanted to express that on behalf of our board. They did review the information a few months ago at a board meeting and just say that it's a good opportunity from an economic development standpoint to have this type of a financing program available.
So, thank you very much. Would anyone else like to address this law at this point? Okay, I'll be asking again. So we have a couple of proclamations. Our first first one is for recognizing 2017 as the Year of the Woman in Cayuga County, and I think to accept this this proclamation is Aileen McNabb Coleman and Sue Dora. So if you all could come forward. Whereas 2017 is the 100th anniversary of the passage in New York State of the Suffrage Act, granting women in New York State full political rights. And whereas New York was the first eastern state to pass full suffrage for women, an act that led to the passage of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, granting full suffrage to women nationwide. And whereas true and full citizenship for women was not accomplished merely by achieving suffrage, but was and is an ongoing struggle for equal rights. And whereas not until the federal civil rights legislation was passed in the 1960s were the full range of citizenship rights legally mandated to include women and people of every and any race, national origin, religious conviction, and political persuasion as rights of citizenship. And whereas even today, women still must struggle for full and equal participation in the labor force and in political and economic life. And whereas the great contributions of women to the progress of our nation often go unacknowledged. And whereas if we wish to protect the rights of women in our democratic society, it is important to recognize, declare, and uphold those rights. And whereas as the dignity of all persons must be protected, women have the right to live without fear for their physical or emotional safety, and the right to pursue their own dreams in a society that recognizes their value. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Keith Batman, Chairman of the Cayuga County Legislature, and fellow legislators do hereby proclaim 2017 the Year of the Woman in Cayuga County, and urge our residents to recognize and celebrate the crucial role that women of all races and ethnic and political backgrounds have played in our country's history, as well as their important place throughout Cayuga County today.
I'm very honored to accept this. I know that there were a lot of women that came before me, and that is why I am here today, and I'm able to be here today. There were a lot of sacrifices made, and I just want to thank this body for recognizing how important it is to celebrate the Year of the Woman. And there's some elected women sitting right there, and Aileen as well, and I want to thank you for coming.
As stated in this proclamation, and the 100th anniversary of the passage of the Suffrage Act in New York State, we need to recognize and celebrate the crucial role that all women of all races and ethnic and political backgrounds have played in the history of this country, this region, and this county. If you look out to the seats of the Cayuga County Legislature tonight, you can see the single chair that I currently occupy as the only female legislator. This picture is a reminder that we have more work to do, not only at the county level and in politics, but in business and in all areas of our lives. Let this anniversary reignite the voices of the women of our county. Let this anniversary activate all of us to encourage our mothers, sisters, daughters, neighbors, and friends to rise up and occupy the seats at the table, to share their talents and experiences, and to overall enhance our community. I am so grateful to have earned the opportunity to represent my community in these chambers, and I'm very honored to take part in accepting this proclamation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more proclamation, and that's for the Auburn Players Community Theater. So I think we have a couple people from the group. Just one? Just you? Oh. I had understood there was going to be.
There was going to be.
I guess we have to do with what we have. Thank you for coming.
Love here, I can feel it.
Bob and I worked together for a number of years, so I have the utmost respect for him, as you know from my smart aleckiness. So, whereas the Auburn Players Community Theater has been producing outstanding community theater since 1961, and whereas over the years of production the company has been recognized with numerous awards and accolades, and whereas the production of Almost Maine won multiple awards for acting, direction, and production, whereas Almost Maine won the Theater Association of New York State competition for Best Production in New York State. And whereas the cast and crew will be representing Auburn, Cayuga County, and New York State at the regional competition in Wilmington, Delaware on April 8th. And whereas the winner of this regional competition will move on to the AACT national competition in Rochester, Minnesota. And whereas the cost may be a problem of transport and house the company of 17 actors and crew for the 3 days that they must be at the regional competition, now therefore be it resolved that I, Keith Batman, Chair of the Cayuga County Legislature, join fellow legislators in recognition of the work, art, and productions of the Auburn Players Community Theater and declare February 28, 2017 Auburn Players Community Theater Day, and encourage the residents of Auburn and Cayuga County to recognize and support the Auburn Players Community Theater.
I may say a few words. Keith gave me the microphone. First, let me thank you. Thank you for this. The Auburn Players have been an active part of this community for a number of years, 61 as the proclamation said. I first came into this town in 1979. At that point, there were 3 active community theaters working in this city, and there have been more since then. I'm so thrilled that I came to this town to work at the college and have been here ever since. This means a lot. I was one of the directors for Almost Maine. To win this show and then to move on to the ESTA Festival in Wilmington, Delaware is just going to be another feather in our cap. This will be the 3rd time I've been lucky enough to go to a regional competition, and hope we keep on going. We are fundraising. We have a GoFundMe campaign. Anybody feels like giving money to help us get there? Again, 17 people that we have to house for a weekend, and plus travel to get down there. And if we luckily win and go to Rochester, Minnesota, not this one, that's getting everybody up to Rochester, Minnesota, so we'll be coming back and talk to you again. But for now, thank you, and have a good meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
can I just say, Helen Burke and Jean Wright were 2 great women that I've been associated with through political campaigns. And I just wanted to state that the amendment, the 19th Amendment, they're honoring that amendment with a 19-mile race in Seneca Falls pretty soon. So I think that's will be well attended too. So my hats are off. They've gotten me elected many times. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we move on, is there anyone else who would like to speak to the local law? Okay. In that case, the public to be heard. Okay. I would like to invite up Nelsa Sullivan. Nelsa, I know you're here. Oh, there you are. Nelsa, if you could state your name and address.
Nelsa Sellover, 743 Lavana Road, Aurora, New York. And thank you, Chairman Batman. And I'd like to first say thank you, too, because Mr. Batman happens to be my legislative representative, and I think you've done a great job representing our area.
Thanks, Nelsa.
Thank you. This is in response to the Year of the Women Proclamation. And I want to thank Chairman Batman and members of the legislature. Thank you so much for the presentation of the Year of the Woman Proclamation at tonight's meeting. As a longtime member of the Women's Republican Club, I am honored to speak on behalf of our more than 150 members and to all who represent all those women who came before us. Our club was organized on February 6, 1923, almost exactly 94 years ago. And our members have been working hard ever since to make our community a great place to live and work. We know how important it is to remember all the hard work and sacrifices of so many people made in order to give women the right to vote. Our club focuses this year is to commemorate our 100th year celebration by holding several events that will be open to the public. And I want to add here, too, that it was not just women who fought for the right to vote. It was a lot of men who walked beside them, and including my own grandparents. The first event is called Voices for Votes. It will be held on April 6th at 5:30 at Auburn Public Theater. It will include a timeline presentation with people from our community portraying the historic characters who play a vital role in the fight of the suffrage. The proceeds to this event will support programs at Cayuga Seneca Community Action Agency that empower local women to achieve and sustain self-sufficiency. The second event will be a family walk/run on August 19th at Hoops Park. Proceeds from that event will go to the Jean M. Wright Scholarship at Cayuga Community College. This scholarship will be awarded to a local female student. I am sure Jean is smiling down on all of us tonight. She was a past president of the club and a role model and mentor for all of us. Jean was one of the first women supervisors during a time in our history when that was a very rare occurrence. I would like to recognize another trailblazer, our past president and county clerk, Sue Dwyer. She was the first and only woman to be elected on to a county-wide office here in Cayuga County. Thank you to all of the women who are here tonight to celebrate this special occasion. I would like to recognize and say thank you to Aileen McNabb Coleman, the sole female county legislator, for making the decision to run for office. I would also like to recognize women who came before her. Jane Bowen, who was here tonight with us, Linda Post Van Buskert, Cindy Aikman, Linda Townsend, and remembering Ruth Scholes, Ann Petrus, and Betty Graney. We need more women just like them to take an active role in government. Again, I would like to thank our county legislators for presenting this proclamation, especially you, Keith, thank you, and for the work you do and the time you dedicate to the county government. I know it's often thankless, but you do a great job. You are all invited to those events I mentioned and to participate in a year-long celebration. Thank you.
Thank you, Nelson. Thank you. So do any other legislators have anyone that wishes to be heard? Okay, in that case.
Minutes for approval, 12417 and 22117.
Mr. Dennison, second. Mr. Bennett. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Community college report. Doctor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Dan Dobell. I'm sitting in for Brian Durant. While Brian sends his regards, he is in Albany advocating for more state dollars for the community college. I would like to recognize John Camardo, our trustee, for being here this evening. I just have a few bullet points and then open up for questions. We just got done with a very positive audit at the college right now. We just finished it up, and it was one immaterial finding, one of the most positive audits that I've ever been a part of, so that's really good about that right now. We're working on budget development at the college. We're working on our enrollment estimates for the upcoming year. We're working on 5-year budgets, so the budget managers have till Friday to put their budgets in, and then we start hashing that out as a senior staff. Spring 2017 enrollments are up, they're on target with our enrollment estimates right now. So right now that the year is playing out the way we thought it would for community college applications for fall 2017 are up compared to the previous year. So that's a pretty positive development right now. And then my last bullet point is simply we have spring open houses coming up on our 2 respective campuses on Saturday, March the 4th at the Auburn campus from 10 to noon, and then on the Fulton campus on Saturday, March the 11th from 10 to noon. So you have Brian's report there. Again, he sends his regards to everybody. He is in Albany, again, trying to find money for our community college. And I'll now open it up for questions.
Are there any questions? Mr. Dennison?
Yes, sir.
Is the enrollment up both here and at the Fulton campus, or just
Yes, applications
overall?
are up. Applications are up across the board.
Mr. Lattimore?
Is the Fulton campus at 700? What is the actual enrollment? You say it's up from 600?
This is just applications, not FTE. Okay, so the jury's still out as to whether that's going to actually turn into real live FTE for 2018. But we're seeing about a 2 to 3% on the application side.
In order to have a good financial picture, we need at least 700 bodies, or?
No, right now the FTE for both campuses is about 2510. That's our budgeted FTE for the combined campuses, and about 60% of that is Fulton. Okay.
And if the governor goes ahead with his plan and says a 4-year,
The Excelsior Scholarship.
yes.
That, you know what, we're SUNY is providing us with updates on that. That's very positive. We think it's a step in the right direction. We're not sure what form it's going to take. Is it going to be money to the college? Is it going to be a scholarship money? We're not sure, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. Putting their money in we think, the right place, higher education.
And have we made any progress with the default on the loan, the mortgage?
We're still working on that. It's still unresolved. We think progress is being made, but there's not a lot to report right now.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay. Thank you very
everybody.
much. Okay, committee reports or reports from individual legislators. Ms. McNabb-Coleman.
I have a couple of items. March to Lake Day is going to take place this Saturday, March 4th at the Auburn Public Theater. The discussions will center around the status of Owasco Lake, plans to upgrade the water filtration plant, nutrient reduction projects, and harmful algal bloom or HABs. The event is co-sponsored by WQMA, AULA, IAGT, and the Finger Lakes Institute of Hobart William Smith Colleges. I believe it starts at 9:30. Let me just check. It starts at 9 o'clock in the morning and goes to 12:30. It's very informative. As you know, we have a lot going on this year with the status and the health of our lakes, so please join us for that. This Sunday, March 5th, is just a little plug. Multiple Sclerosis Resources of CNY is holding their annual MS Walk in Destiny at Destiny USA. Last March, I presented a proclamation to Susan Rosinko to commemorate MS Awareness Month. Susan and I have combined our teams for this Sunday, and we're doing fundraising effort to benefit local people living with MS in Central New York. So I just wanted to take a minute to plug that.
Okay. Thank you. Any other reports? Mr. Lattimore.
Aileen, there's been some debate in regards to who should do the watershed inspection. Is there any further development on it, or
What do you mean, who should?
whether soil and water should, or?
The Watershed Inspection Program is currently in charge of that. They work very closely with Soil and Water, but they have the charge of inspecting the watershed. They just work closely together. There isn't any, that's not changing at all.
Are you talking about where they would be housed? I think that's the issue.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, okay.
The roles are not changing. They may be changing location, but that's still up in the air. There's many things to consider.
Are there any other reports from committees, legislators? Mr. Foley.
Mr. Chairman, we were able to attend NISAC together. I thought that was a good time, very informative. We attended Native American Affairs Committee together. I'm sure you'll report on that. Maybe in your report, so I'll skip that. One of the workshops that I was pleased I was able to attend was developing an employee social media policy for your county. What that basically is if you have county employees that go onto their personal social media accounts or the county's social media accounts and say something negative, does the county have any kind of policy in place for that type of stuff? So luckily we do. I have talked with Steve Tobin. If any legislators have any questions about that, please ask him at Government Operations. But believe it or not, some counties that were present there did not have a policy about that. So, and it can be, it's something that you don't need, and it's something that you need, and then you're okay until you don't have it, like a gun or something. I don't know. There's a saying in it, but I just wanted to report it.
Great, thank you.
Did you say gun?
Right.
Somebody's got a gun?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other reports from legislators? Ms. Lattimore?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to indicate that I had a nice time with our health consortium. I know you made some changes there, but I would like to say that I have contributed a lot to that in regards to the Canada RX, saving a lot of money on our drug buy. I know that I've been replaced by Mr. Vitale, and I know that there's been a lot of changes on the federal level in regards to whether or not to repeal and replace the Obamacare. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But I know you sent me an email saying that I hadn't appeared at a few of the meetings, and I just want to correct the record saying that my IT that works on my phone, I never got any notice of those meetings, but I have 45 years in the business, so I do know a little bit about that subject. So, but the IT didn't work on that particular one, so I just want to correct the record that, sometimes 10 o'clock meetings are hard to get to when you're working. I know retirees might be able to get there a little sooner, but just for the record.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or reports from individual legislators? Very good, thank you. So, my report. Mr. Foley touched on NYSEG. He and Ms. McNabb Coleman and I attended and I too found it productive. I particularly like the fact that I took time when in Albany to meet with Senator Helming, our new senator from the 54th Senate District, which includes most of the I'm directionally challenged. I have to think east, west, most of the west side of Cayuga County. I found her very receptive, and I think she's going to serve us well. One of the things that I found particularly helpful is that her background is as a town supervisor and a member of a board such as this in Seneca County. So she was immediately familiar with a number of the issues that we face, and so that's encouraging, and look forward to working with her. I think the comptroller gave one of the keynote addresses, and I took that opportunity to ask him to take a more active role in shining a light on the unfunded mandates. Everyone talks about it, but it seems to me that he has a potentially important role to play in terms of bringing to light the financial issues that those impose upon both the state and the county government. So we'll see if anything comes of that, but it was a great opportunity, and I learned a lot, as I'm sure Aileen and Brian did. So it was a very good opportunity. And Mr. Lattimore was able to attend the one day as well. So that's always productive. I met with the Senator Helming this last week, along with the Mayor of Aurora and the President of Wells College, to talk about the water situation in Aurora and also the hydrilla infestation in Cayuga Lake. I've mentioned the hydrilla infestation in passing before, but it was only recently I discovered the extent of it. I thought it was a patch here and a patch there. It's actually somewhere between 20 and 30 acres. So that is going to be a major challenge Hydrilla is difficult to eradicate. It spreads very quickly, so it's going to be a problem that we're going to have to confront as we move forward this year pretty aggressively in order to even to maintain it, to maintain the, or restrict the expansion, the growth of it. So it's something to look forward to as a focus. I'm meeting with Senator DeFrancisco and Congressman Katko in the near future, the senator this week, and the congressman sometime in the next week or so. So I've requested if anyone, I sent out an email earlier before I met with Senator Helming, if people had issues to bring forward, and I've collected those, of course, for Senator DeFrancisco as well. If there are other things that people would like me to bring forward with either the senator or the congressman, just let me know. I'll add it to the list. We've been working recently, meetings on the digester, on Emerson Park, an administrative search in particular. So there's a whole series of meetings ongoing with that. If anyone has any questions on those, I would encourage you to email me, give me a call, stop in and see me, and we can talk about it in more detail. And we're continuing to work to find space for probation. We had a meeting today, and we came up with a couple of potential plans that we're going to be moving forward in. I sent an email just right before this meeting asking if it was possible that the ideas that we came up with, if we could follow up on them within a couple weeks. That may be too aggressive a timeline, but the point is that they're trying to really move that forward. So probation has a place to go. There, as we all know, they're just way too crowded. Finally, there was a manure issue in Cayuga Lake this past week that was addressed, but it brings to light, again, the challenges that we face in terms of water quality and watershed issues, but not just in Wasco Lake, but in Cayuga Lake and in our other watersheds. So it's something that we need to keep our consciousness focused on as we move toward finding solutions for the problems that we're having in all of our watersheds. So with that, does anyone have any questions of me? Mr. Lattimore.
In regards to watershed issues, the President, I think, just rolled back an executive order regarding the farm water with the runoff of the ditches in it from EPA, so it relaxes some of the farm issues. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects our watershed. But I would like to thank the chairman for coming to the Power Authority meeting the other day. Hopefully you see that we've made some strides, and I know this sustainable energy loan program tonight, we'd like to pass that. So,
Great. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, in that case, we have a number of appointments and reappointments. If I could have a motion to take these as a group.
Second.
Mr. Baxter and I'm Mr. Foley. Okay, does anyone want any of these pulled out for discussion? Mr. Dennison?
I just have one question on the tobacco asset one.
Yes.
You got Aileen listed twice. Does that mean somebody was that just a typo listing her twice, or is somebody missing that's supposed to be?
Yeah, no, actually, I noticed that, and it went in one ear and out the other. It's fundamentally a typo. The reason she's on there twice, the reason the error occurred is that particular group is composed of I guess they're not statutory. Are they statutory or just?
By the bylaws of the corporation.
Okay, yeah. So
Well, that's fine. I just didn't
Yeah.
want somebody who was supposed to be in her
Yeah.
other spot there.
Right,
got
and she holds two positions as
left
majority
off.
leader and Ways and Means, so she gets 2 votes. No, I'm kidding. But thank you actually for reading the appointments. Are there any other questions? In that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I know that Mr. Orman sits on the deferred comp. Is there members for that deferred comp, James? Is there members of the deferred comp board?
Yes, Mike Russell, myself, Keith sits on that once in a while. Sit on that.
You know, I'm not
We're reconfiguring the
certain.
committee, so, but right now, we're actually going out for bids for the
It'll be good for the employees to have an option on that.
Yep, it will. So far, it's looking pretty good.
Thanks, James.
Okay, communications and announcements. If I could have a motion to dispense with the reading.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed. Thank you very much. Now, if we can move to our regular monthly resolutions. Mr. Vitale.
Might I interrupt? Maybe we ask if there's any comments to the local law before we...
Well, I was gonna wait, but,
Okay.
but that's fine. Are there any, does anyone wish to speak on the local law? Very good, thank you. Ms. McNabb-Coleman.
Mr. Chairman, we have our regular monthly resolutions, 1A, 1B. I'd like to offer them as a bundle.
Okay, any objection to bundling these?
One, can we pull that out?
You want one out?
Yeah.
Okay. So, if we can vote on 1B, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Now, 1A, is there discussion?
Is that for the Titus settlement, you mean?
No.
No. Oh, I see. No, we're doing the resolutions authorizing the audit of the payment of regular bills.
Oh, okay.
So-
Well, that's okay.
Yep, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer up WM 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 as a bundle, unless we'd like to separate any.
Ms. Lattimore, do you want one
Yes,
separated?
Separate one.
Okay, I'd like to offer up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 as a bundle. They've been through committees.
Does anyone object to bundling 2 through 8? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Okay, WM 1, authorizing the settlement in the matter of Keith Titus Corporation versus the Village of Cato, seeking monetary damage for the removal of trees from property belonging to Keith Titus Corporation, and execution of a stipulation of settlement agreement, and declaring property surplus. I see this required 2/3 vote in Ways and Means.
Okay, discussion? Mr. Whitman?
Was there any settlement with the village? With that?
Yes, the village has agreed to surrender its existing easement / right-of-way over the Titus property in exchange for settling the case.
So we helped the village out, and they're giving up a right-of-way, and we're paying $13,000 and a radio tower for a load of firewood?
That's one way to look at it.
Just checking. And I'm having a hard time charging the taxpayers $13,000 for some firewood. I guess if Titus agrees that that's a fair settlement, then that's what we're stuck with, but I can't support that.
Mr. Lattimore?
Fred, is this coming out of the, we used to have an insurance account that was, it wasn't under our general insurance policy, but we did have a surplus policy. Do you know whether that would come out of that fund, or which fund would that?
If you're it would come out of the casualty and liability fund. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
And how much do we have in that?
It's 6 figures, at least $500,000-600,000 in that account.
So that pays for liabilities that aren't covered by our general insurance.
That's correct. It would pay for insurance settlements that aren't covered by the insurance policy, the county's deductible. It also is used to pay for outside counsel.
Mr. Dennison?
So the county no longer has any ties whatsoever to the tower, the property, anything? We're done?
We're done, yes, yes. And remember the tower's been abandoned for
Yes, years.
decades.
Any other questions? Okay, ready to vote?
All set.
Madam?
Tucker Whitman,
No.
Andy Dennison,
Yes.
Ben Vitale,
Yes.
Grant Kyle,
Yes.
Paul Pinckney is excused, Aileen McNabb Coleman,
Yes.
Joseph DeForest,
Yes.
Terry Baxter,
Yes.
Joseph Bennett,
Yes.
Frank Reginelli,
Yes.
Patrick Mahonik,
Yes.
Timothy Lattimore,
No?
Michael Didio is excused, Brian Foley,
Yes.
Keith Batman.
Yes.
Pass.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, WM9, we're going to hold until later in the meeting, so I'm going to move on to WM10. This is recently added, authorizing the County of Cayuga to hire a consultant to help facilitate the review of the position of Cayuga County Administrator, authorizing the Chair of the Cayuga County Legislature to negotiate and execute a consulting contract, and amending the 2017 budget. So this requires a motion.
Okay. So we have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Mr. Dennison?
Before this is executed, will we all see what it is?
If that's your will, yes. Yeah, it'll be negotiated with the, if you notice the resolution, with the minority and majority leader.
Yeah.
And I think the way we'll probably do it is ask the majority and minority leader to share with their caucuses. It's probably the best way to do it. Mr. Lattimore?
Our association, I believe, has helped, or has language that might be where we wouldn't need to hire a consultant. Have we checked with our association to
Yes.
see?
Yes, and they didn't.
They did?
No. I didn't, well, in any event, no. They said no. Mr. Whitman?
I'm a little concerned with the timing of this resolution. What's the hurry? It was to my understanding, as this position became open, that we would, and it says this in the wording, but look at whether or not the position is even needed at all, or whether we may want to change the position and how the whole system functions. I'm concerned about hiring a consultant at this point. Why this resolution has suddenly popped up a couple days and not gone through the proper channels. Do we not have time to send it through next month? Or?
Yeah, the concern was, or the concern is, that we talked about, we spent some time talking about in the minority-majority group and other places. We talked about how to move forward with this. We considered whether or not we could do it ourselves, and we played with several scenarios to not have someone come in from the outside. What we ultimately decided is that we really did need a third impartial person, a person that's not involved in this process. What this person will do is fundamentally facilitate a conversation with us about whether we need an administrator, if we do, what that should look like. We've collected information from department heads, from, as you know, from each caucus, and from some other groups. The idea is we'll share that with this person. This person will put that together in a way, then come to us and say, okay, here's what people said. Facilitate a discussion with us. Help us make a decision about exactly what you said. The reason for the short timing is the short timing is we really talked about this all through well, not all through January, but we've talked about it for a significant part of January and February. About exactly how to go about it. The initial hope was to save a couple dollars and do it ourselves, but the decision was that was kind of penny wise, pound foolish. If we don't do it this way and it goes through the February process, then now we're into April before we can actually even begin the discussions, which means that we get later and later in the process of deciding what we're going to do, what direction we're going to go in, and how we're going to do it. If we're going to run up against budget time pretty quickly, and so that's the reason for there is some urgency, and this is not the ideal way to do it, but that's the reason that it comes up this way.
Do we know how much this conversation is going to cost us?
Well, it can't be more than we have to go out to a bid if it's more than 5,000. So it's got to be under 5,000, or we have to come back for a bid.
And when you say we have discussed this, I have not been part of that "we." When the minority and majority leaders discuss things, I don't feel that that's a "we." I know I've missed a couple meetings in the last month. Maybe it was discussed some. But like I said, it hasn't really come through committees, or I haven't seen it, so I'm not going to support it at this time.
Yeah. And I would advise you to speak with your minority leader if you're not getting information. I mean, that's the, that is a problem if people aren't aware of stuff, so. Okay, any other comments or discussion? Ms. Dennison?
Just out of curiosity, has this process been used for the previous administrators?
The
Or anyone else in
first
that
time
area?
around, the county hired the second and third time around for the county administrator, outside resources were used to work through the changes to the manager local law to make an administrator local law, and then that same person came back several years later. So yes, that was done. And even the first time around, they had outside assistance.
Okay, other questions? Okay, we ready to vote? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Mr. Whitman? Mr. Lattimore? Okay, thank you. Health and Human Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Health and Human Services has 7 resolutions. HH 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 have all been through committee in the past. I'd like to offer them up as a bundle unless somebody'd like them separated.
Does anyone want any of these unbundled? Are there any questions? In that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Government Operations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Government Operations has 1 resolution. I would offer that up for discussion.
Is there any discussion on the standard workday reporting? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And planning. Mr. Dennison?
Well, they're both not here, so I'll do it. Planning has 3 resolutions, PL 1, 2, and 3. I'd like to bundle, unless somebody wants them separated.
Any objection to bundling these? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And Public Works.
Mr. Chairman, Public Works has 8 resolutions. I would bundle 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8, unless there's an objection.
So bundling 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Correct.
Does anyone want any of these that are bundled taken out? Okay, in that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
PW4, authorization for highway superintendent to purchase a hydraulic excavator. I just separated that so I could make the statement that it passed through committees and Ways and Means with a recommendation that we purchase the new one and not the slightly used one based on warranty and time frame.
Yeah, thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Judicial and Public Safety?
Mr. Chairman, Judicial and Public Safety has 9 resolutions. I would offer JP 1 through 9 as a bundle unless anybody would like any separated.
Would anyone like any of these separated? In that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And we have 4 legislative resolutions. I think we can bundle if it's acceptable, 1, 3, and 4. We need to hold out 2. Does anyone object to voting on 1, 3, and 4 as a bundle? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So before we consider the local law for the Sustainable Energy Program, I would ask one final time if there's anyone that would like to speak on this law. Okay, Hearing none, then I will close the public hearing. Since this doesn't seem to be terribly controversial, I don't see any problem in voting on this tonight. So would take a motion to adopt the law for sustainable energy.
Move it.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Mr. Whitman?
I just wanted to just clarify, since Kelly was here, there was some discussion with her department over this law in the beginning, correct?
Yes.
And everything's been resolved?
It's in process. We've sent well, there are issues. We've identified the issues. We've sent the issues in writing to EIC, which are the people that need to resolve it. The issue, well, let our attorney explain this.
The issues that are out there are primarily program issues. The meeting that was held was a telephone conference held several weeks ago. The attorney that we spoke with and one of the representatives from EIC asked us to put together those responses or those program amendments. We have done that. We haven't heard back yet. We're optimistic. We didn't get much, there wasn't any sense in a telephone call that there would be any opposition to it, but it needs to go to the EIC board. It is part of the next step. The first one involves a local law, and the second piece would involve getting the amendments to the agreement.
So it's going to work?
Looks like it's going to work. If it doesn't, then I'll come back before the body, because it wouldn't be implemented if these program amendments aren't passed. We would be back before the body.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
just
sir.
Point of order. Fred, when we have a public hearing, can we vote on it that night, or do we have to wait a week?
You can vote on it that night.
We can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to clarify, excuse me, my practice has been, if the public has substantial concerns about any aspect of a law, then we delay the vote so we can consider those comments. When there are no comments, there's no reason, or when the comments are in support, there's no reason to delay the vote, because there's nothing to consider beyond what we have considered. So that's the reason to vote, because if there are comments, just so for the future, their comments will not call for a vote that night. Mr. Denison.
Fred, just to be perfectly clear, we can pass this local law tonight.
Yes.
But if the amendments don't go the way we want them to go, then what, we scrap the local law that we passed?
No, we would be back here explaining to the body, and probably through the committee process, what amendments they said they would accept, what amendments they said they wouldn't accept, the reason for that, and then ultimately ask the legislature what they wanted to do next. Because these amendments were generated by the Treasurer's Office in Real Property in a planning department based on their review of the local law.
I guess I'm just confused as to why we wouldn't vote on something after the amendments are decided, or something that's in front of us that here it is, it's done, as opposed to here, vote on this, we're hoping this, and this happens, but we're not sure if it will. That doesn't make any sense to me.
If I may, it's a two-step process. The first step authorizes the entering into discussions on the agreement. The second step is discussions on that agreement and then and making the actual agreement on how the program will operate. The reason that we sent that request in advance was to get some feedback, if possible, on the position. We didn't have to do that, and the feedback we get will just be just that, feedback. So, good or bad, right or wrong, silly or not silly, this process is set up so that that's the way it works. You pass the authorization, then you enter into negotiations, and then you sign the actual program agreement. And so we cannot enter into an agreement with them until we pass this and then negotiate that agreement. Even if we get something back from them, all we've gotten back from them is a response to our questions, and it's not a legal document, it's not an agreement. So, I think that's accurate, right?
That's accurate, yeah.
Mr. Whitman.
So if you're saying we need an agreement to have an agreement, then obviously we're dealing with the state.
Yeah.
I'm with Andy, it feels like we're putting the cart in front of the horse here. It just doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't we have it all figured out before we pass a law? And I know they do it backwards, but.
EIC wants to make sure that the county is on board with and supportive of the program. The anecdotal evidence that I have, or reports that I have, is the EIC has never opposed program violation or program amendments. It's just part of the process that they would like us to go through. I know that doesn't answer your question. It doesn't take care of all of everybody's concern. It does lengthen it out a little bit, but I hate to be the one that says say that is a process, but that is apparently the process.
Yeah. And I hate to answer this way, but we'll give you the contact information. I think it's a good question. It's like, I don't know.
I've been on hold with the state before.
Mr. Baxter.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I wonder, there's going to be some level of work picked up by our people for this program. Is there any reimbursement from the state for our
No.
time and labor?
Ms. Foley.
Mr. Chairman, at Ways and Means, I asked the question, and I think it holds true tonight, that no work would be done. I asked Fred, I said, you know, what work would be done, what options would be available to the public, and we said that, Fred made it very clear that this program would not be made available to the public until we got all the amendments figured out that. And so it's not like we're going to pass it, but it's not going to actually be available. That's as far as I understood it. Is that correct, Fred?
That's correct. It's not implemented until after the county is approved by EIC to become a member of EIC, and that won't happen until after the county signs the agreement, and the agreement's not going to get signed until we work through certain program violations. It's a lengthy process.
Okay. Any other questions? In that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
If you can keep those hands up so we can get it. Mr. Baxter, Mr. Ennis, and Mr. Bennett.
Thank you.
Mr. Latimer, are you voting no?
I have some reservations, as Tucker Whitman had indicated, that
You-
should
and-
be
You voting no?
letter perfect.
I don't know. Oh, what's your vote? I'm sorry.
I'll vote no at this time.
Huh. Okay, so it still pass?
With 4? You want a roll call vote?
Well, no.
It's 9 to 3 to 2, right?
Oh, okay. So we're okay.
Yeah, we're-
Yeah. So, just a point of clarification, you understand without this, the Capusa is not eligible for the $200,000 application, $250,000. That's what this
Well, I was
does.
just hoping that we'd have some absolute clarity in regards.
No, it's fine that your vote is no. I'm just
It's
wondering.
not against the program, it's against the fact that the concerns that were brought up.
Okay. Okay, very good. Okay, do we have any other business to come before the board at this time? Mr. Whitman?
I would like to propose a resolution authorizing the chair of the Cayuga County Legislature to execute a contract for legal services with Frank Miller Law Firm.
We're going to discuss that in executive session, so if you
Are we
could
gonna
hold
move
that
on
till
it
we come
tonight?
out.
Are we going to move on it after executive session?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So if
Did
if
not-
there's no other
wasn't aware
business
there
for
was-
now, if I could have a motion to move into executive session?
Second.
Where,
Okay, we'll be in what?
where are we on WM9?
We're going to hold it till after.
We
executive.
bundled it.
No, we separated that out.
No, not
Got
WM9.
separated out for
Whoops.
later, but nothing happened.
Okay, we'll have to do it after executive session. I had it marked as a bundle, forgive me. So we'll vote on it when we come out. There will be action when we come out of executive session, so we'll pick that up. Thank you for catching that.
I'm sorry. I just meant hold it, like, because it has to do with our executive session.